When I go out for a shoot, whether it's down the street or across the world, I have my choice of cameras. Like most people, my eyes go towards the top of the line flagship cameras like the Sony A12, which I've shot a ton over the past year. So I want to talk about some of the things that I consider when choosing a camera, why specs alone won't always yield the best results, and which camera I tend to pick. Alright, so let's not waste any time. The biggest thing that I consider is size. Now, size is my biggest consideration because it trickles down to affect almost everything else, from traveling to diving and everything in between. Size matters. Probably the most common place that divers find themselves on is a liveaboard, and most liveaboards are moderately sized and tend to have some sort of accommodation for photographers. This can range from a single shared camera table to personal dedicated camera stations. If I have my own space, then a larger camera and housing is not that big of a deal. I can spread out a bit and worry less about getting in the way of others. And the same goes for resorts, where having a personal camera station is pretty common. And there's usually some sort of convenient transportation that makes having extra luggage easier. These are the sort of trips and environments where having a larger camera and housing is great. I can shoot with the full force of however many megapixels I want and the largest dome port I can get. However, there are plenty of liveaboards, resorts, and situations that just aren't as accommodating. Maybe it's a smaller boat, the resort doesn't have a dedicated camera room, or the trip is more exploratory and isn't as accommodating to photographers specifically. In those cases, I tend to lean more towards the smaller cameras and housings. I can fit the entire system in my backpack, it never leaves my side, and when I show up, I know that I have exactly what I need to start shooting. Ultimately, it just makes getting from point A to point B so much easier. Now, point A to point B isn't just about traveling. It's also about going from not having a shot to getting the shot. So let's talk a bit about handling in the water. Because while our housings do get lighter underwater, there's still a difference in maneuverability and lots to consider based on what I'm trying to achieve. If I'm scuba diving, the weight and size of a larger camera and housing isn't as big of a deal. In fact, if I'm shooting video, the extra weight of my system helps create smooth and steady footage. So in that case, I opt for larger cameras. On the flip side, if I'm shooting stills, whether it be macro or fast-moving big animals, having a smaller camera can also be beneficial. Not only do these smaller cameras tend to have APS-C size sensors, which allow me to get tighter shots, it can allow me to get into these small areas where these critters are, and for the case of the TG6 and 7, get some incredible macro shots way easier than with a system that's triple the size and 4 times the cost. If you're primarily a scuba diver, I would recommend to give some thought to the type of photos and videos that you want to shoot and mean the most to you, and then go from there when deciding on what camera you want. You'll have far more fun and get better results than if you just kit yourself out with the best gear that's on the market. I want to take a quick break to say that if any of this is feeling like a lot to think about, or you just don't know what you want to shoot underwater yet, please reach out to us via email. The email on the screen will connect you with somebody that's literally next door to me right now and will help you figure it all out. Whether you're just starting out in underwater photography or you're looking for an upgrade, our goal is to make the process as smooth as possible. So please don't hesitate to reach out. So not all dive trips are scuba trips. There are plenty of great experiences to have by just jumping in and free diving or snorkeling. And after lugging all sorts of equipment on these types of trips, I can confidently say that the cameras that fit in these smaller DLM housings are the way to go. For example, sardine runs, like in South Africa and Mexico, are often centered around these split-second moments, where I'm jumping in and just observing what's going on in front of me. The action can last minutes or just a few seconds. If the latter is true, then I have to book it back to the boat, climb up, and get ready for the next jump. Now, I consider myself a strong swimmer, and I can make these larger systems work, but why waste the energy when there are just as capable, high-resolution cameras available in a smaller setup? And the same is true on the other end of the spectrum for slower, more relaxed trips. Sometimes I don't want to pay attention to all the small details, and I just want to take some quick shots along the way, like getting up before sunrise for some early morning shots or just handing the camera off to a friend. The smaller cameras and housings are just perfect for this because it allows me to move easier in the water and just store the camera out of the way when I'm just on the boat. With all that being said, when it comes down to deciding what camera to take, I usually opt for the Sony a7C II. For starters, I own Sony lenses and I'm most familiar with their menus and how their cameras operate. Secondly, in my opinion, I think the a7C II is the best balance between size and features. Most importantly, it fits in the smaller DLM housing. And like I mentioned before, I can just throw it in my bag and it never leaves my side when traveling. As a full frame high resolution sensor, it has all the video features I want with 4K and higher frame rates, and all the AI tech that's in the newer generation Sony cameras. It also has the ability to internally zoom PZ lenses using the custom buttons on the back of the camera. So when I'm using the 16-35 PZ, I don't need a zoom gear, and this makes my camera bag and setup that much more streamlined. If you aren't a Sony shooter but you're looking for the same kind of setup, check out the Canon R8 for a full frame camera and the Canon R7 for an APS-C camera. Unfortunately for the Nikon shooters, there aren't any cameras that support the smaller DLM sized housings. However, I think you may like the Nikon Z5 series cameras, which offers features on par with the Sony and Canon cameras that I mentioned before. Hopefully this helps you narrow down what kind of camera is right for you and your shooting style. And if you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments down below or shoot us an email to ikelite@ikelite.com.